Willow everyone, I'm sure, a first year at the National Academy of Legal Studies and Research, or better known as NALSAR University of Law, as well. And I know exactly what's going through your mind right now. What on earth was that CLAT physics paper? I mean, I have the same question honestly. After reading the paper and after listening to some of my mentees, what was that? Uh, to be honest, it reminds me a little bit of my own CLAT paper as well. CLAT 85 last year, because both of them were fairly messed up. Both of them had a lot of surprises, and both of these sets of candidates cried after the exam a lot. Um, so I don't know what happened this year. It was a very weird paper based on what I've gathered. So I'm going to talk about that in this video. I'll discuss what I think are the issues in the paper in ascending order of how problematic they are. So the first one is fairly inconsequential, but then of course as you grow, as you get into the video, into the later parts of the video, there are more pressing issues as well. Um, and this is based on me reading the paper and me listening to some of my mentees. I attempted the paper a little bit as well, like not timed or anything, but just to see kaisa hota. And yeah, there are a lot of issues in the paper. So yeah, let's get started. Okay, so the section order is the first issue. Fairly inconsequential in my opinion, but um, till now in every CLAT exam, the section order has been uh, English, current affairs, logical reasoning, legal reasoning, and QT. And that was not followed at all in this CLAT, but it was completely different. So, um, of course, it could have caused a little bit of confusion. It would have caught a lot of people off guard as well. But it's not that big of a deal, in my opinion, because most people still followed their own order of attempting the sections. So, it's not that big of a problem, but still, it's something that we predicted that it would be in a certain way, and it wasn't in a certain way. Then you have the English section. To be honest, I didn't see any issues in the English section. It was fairly easy if you prepared well, if you practiced well, if you paid attention to the questions. I think you could have done it fairly easily. I didn't find any issues in the English section of the paper. Then you have the current affairs section. Not as easy as the English one, but I think still fairly easy. If the English section was a 10 out of 10 on the easiness scale, this would be like an 8.5. So still very easy, but not as easy as the English one. So 85% ish of the questions were fairly easy. You could attempt them even by just like if you read the news properly, not even compendiums, current affairs compendiums, normal news देखते हो, तो उससे जितना you would have gathered information, that would have been enough to give you the knowledge you needed for these 85% of the questions. The other 15% are the tricky ones. So, for example, the SEO Secretariat, I found that a bit tricky because I assumed it would be in Shanghai because the organization's name is Shanghai Cooperation Organization. So I thought naturally it will be in Shanghai, but I was wrong. It's in Beijing. Um, so that's a bit tricky. Or some questions were a little bit niche as well. Like, unless you're really interested in chess, I don't think you would know who is the first world chess champion, which was one of the questions we've asked. So that was a little bit niche, but other than these few questions like this, the others were fairly easy. So 8.5 on the easiness scale, I would say. It's a bit trickier than the previous section, but still fairly easy in my opinion. Then the QT section, this was, I think the concepts were fairly simple. It was just percentages, but it was a little bit calculation intensive. I personally I struggle with calculation a lot, so this would have been very problematic for me because I tend to take a lot more time than normal in the QT section. I take 30 minutes in the QT section, so this would have been very troublesome for me. Even though the questions were simple, the concepts were simple, but just the numbers involved were a little bit calculation heavy. So I would have struggled a little bit here. So 6, I would say, on the easiness scale. You could still do it if you can calculate things easily, but I personally would have struggled a lot here. Then the legal reasoning section wasn't legal reasoning at all. It was legal knowledge. I don't know what happened here. This is from where the issues begin in proper. The matlab, like there was one question which was about what did this one amendment do. I'm not remembering exactly what, but like that is not what you're supposed to ask in legal reasoning based on the previous CLAT exams. Legal reasoning is supposed to be that you're given a passage about some case, some law, some statute, some principle of law, whatever. Then you have 5 or 6 questions which ask you to apply that principle, that case law, or all those things to that particular situation from that particular question. जो कि नहीं हुआ इस बार. So many questions were GK, literally just GK, like not even legal GK, just GK, which baffles me because CLAT has said, sorry, the consortium has said on its website that to attempt the legal reasoning section, you won't need any legal knowledge, but you required some legal knowledge in some of the questions here, and the rest of them were also like general GK. So I don't know what the consortium was thinking here. If you knew these questions, the answers to these questions, they would have been very easy. But if you didn't know them, yeah, you would have been stuck here. And you would be forgiven for not knowing these questions because you are not supposed to know these questions. You're not supposed to come to the legal reasoning section and expect knowledge based questions. So you would have been forgiven um, for struggling in this section. I would have struggled as well if I didn't know all these answers to these questions. So I'm sure a lot of people struggle in this section. जो questions आते थे मार्क कर दिए आंसर आ गए that would have been easy, but जो नहीं आते उसे मार्क्स बहुत ज़्यादा कटने वाले हैं in my opinion. So legal 5 4.5 out of 10 on the easiness scale. If you knew the answers, you could have attended them very easily because the concepts, like how do I put it, of course अगर आंसर आता है हर क्वेश्चन आसान लगेगा ही, you know. So if you knew the answers, then it would have been very easy. Otherwise, 4.5 in my opinion, 5 maximum out of 10 on the easiness scale. Then you have the logical reasoning section. This is the most problematic section in this exam, and I'm sure you know that already. Because अब तक हर CLAT एग्जाम में ये critical reasoning आया है for logical reasoning. It has always been critical reasoning with, in my paper last year, one passage of analytical reasoning. But even then, the other passages were all critical reasoning. So, as a 26 aspirant, you would have probably prepared CR a lot more than AR. And you messed up because the entire paper was AR based. I don't understand what the consortium was thinking, but the entire section was AR based. Not a single CR question, which again baffles me to no end because up tak every paper has been CR focused. I don't know what the consortium was thinking that made them do this, but it was very, very unexpected. Very, very unexpected. Um, and I'm sure this is where most of you stumbled because when a CLAT aspirant prepares for CLAT, they focus more on CR naturally because that's what has come till now in every single CLAT paper. If you were already preparing for ALET and the other launches exams alongside CLAT, and therefore you were already doing AR alongside CLAT, tab to I think you could have scored very well in this section. You would have gotten a good rank and everything. Because the concepts themselves aren't difficult, the questions themselves aren't difficult. It's just that the pattern was not followed at all. Not at all. So most of you probably didn't even prepare these topics, which is again, you would be forgiven for that because you are not expected to know this. To be fair to the consortium, they don't explicitly state on their website that they'll only give CR, but one can infer from the previous papers that most of the questions would probably be CR and not AR, considering that before my paper, CLAT 5, none of the papers out of the pattern change had a single question of AR for 5 6 years. But then mine had one paragraph, one passage of AR, then yours had the entire section of AR. So the pattern wasn't followed at all. So you would be forgiven if you didn't know all these topics, uh, because you weren't expected to know these. This was completely unexpected. This was a huge surprise for all of us. Um, but if you were preparing for ALET seriously and therefore you were doing AR, then I think this would have been the perfect opportunity for you to get a lot more marks than your competitors and therefore get a good rank. So, like, I think this will be the deciding section because the gap is so wide, Like, if you just prepared for AR a little bit, you would get a lot more marks than basically 90% of the candidates because they didn't prepare for AR at all. And honestly, they weren't expected to prepare for AR. Um, in your shoes, I would have focused a lot more on CR as well because that's what every single CLAT from the past has been focusing on. So it's not your fault that you were preparing for CR and not AR, but it's just luck, in my opinion. Or like, if you focused on ALET and OLETs a little bit more, then you would have scored a lot more in this section as well. But who could have predicted this? Nobody. So this was not in your control at all. So after all that, what can we take away from this paper for CLAT 7? I have three things in my mind. First, you have to always prepare for the worst case scenario, which means consortium कुछ भी कर सकता है. They can do anything. You have to be prepared for every single worst case possibility, even if it's only 0.1% possible. You still have to be prepared for that because you really don't know what the consortium will do. You really don't know. They might just go back to the pattern of CLAT 4 after this, or they might further double down on this for CLAT 7. You have no idea. You genuinely cannot predict that at all. So you have to be prepared for both scenarios, and you have to be prepared for the worst case for all of them. That's just like, if you don't do that, you're risking your entire preparation because if you prepared for one set of scenarios, but then the other set comes, it is also equally plausible. What will you do? You'll be screwed, just like Clarity 6 was. So you need to be prepared for the worst case scenario. That is the first takeaway. Number two, you should, of course, the number two takeaway is fairly obvious. You should prepare for AR as well alongside CR. Till now, I've always told my mentees to focus more on CR than AR, but after this, I think AR भी कर लेना चाहिए. And honestly, it's beneficial only for you because the other OLEDs, they follow AR as well mostly. So you're not really doing extra work, you're just shifting your priorities in a way because now you have to do AR for not just OLEDs but for CLAT as well. So it's not like you're doing something extra, uh, and it's not like your CR preparation would keep going to this because CR isn't asked in the other OLEDs. So you can replace a, the bulk of your CR prep with AR prep, and that honestly would be more efficient because now you're preparing for every single exam at once, including CLAT, including the ALET, including OLEDs and everything. Rather than pehle, you were only doing CR, you were only preparing for really CLAT because the other exams are mostly AR based. So now you're more efficient, honestly. So that's good in a way. um, and last, the third takeaway is you need to learn to adapt. You need to expect the unexpected in every single thing. You need to train yourself to adapt on the fly very, very quickly. Like, imagine if CLAT 7 also has some very random, very unexpected thing. I don't want you to be the one that gets worried, that starts panicking and therefore fumbles. I want you to be the one that looks at that surprise, analyzes it, asks yourself whether you know it or not. If you know it, you attempt it. If you don't know it, you skip it and you don't waste time. That's how you adapt. If there's something you don't know, you just skip it. You don't waste time on it. And you also need to adapt in the sense that if something unexpected comes, you also need to make sure you're calm, and you have to remind yourself in the moment that if it's tough for you, it's tough for everyone else as well. If it's unexpected for you, it's unexpected for everyone else as well. And therefore, you're not really in as much trouble as you might think in the moment. So those are the three takeaways from the CLAT 26 paper. Um, let's wait for the results to come for the two answer keys, the provisional answer key, the final answer key, the results, the ranks, the cutoffs, and everything. Because there might be more surprises. There generally can be more surprises as well. I hope there aren't. I really hope there aren't. But based on how my CLAT was, how unexpected and full of surprises CLAT 25 was, you might have a lot of surprises in the answer key as well, or in the ranks as well. um, Good or bad. I'm not saying bad ही होंगे. There can be some good surprises as well. But you really can't say anything right now. The wise thing right now would be, if you're unsure, if you feel like you might not get the college you want, then you should start preparing right from this moment. Um, First, focus on AR, of course, because nobody focused on AR, and that came back to bite us. So, start preparing as early as you can. अभी तो पहले OLETs कर लो, A-Lit के prepare कर लो. After that, for CLAT 27, your priority should definitely be AR, because you cannot make this mistake again. You cannot make the mistake of expecting anything again. You have to expect the unexpected. But either way, that's all from my side. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to my channel and pressing the bell icon as well. If you have any suggestions, queries, doubts, requests, please put them in the comments below. I'll answer them either in the comments themselves, or if I think that they deserve a separate video of their own, I'll make a separate video for them as well. And with that, that's all from my side. Bye bye.